If you have always wanted to be an actor, but you just never knew where to start, I'm going to attempt to make this one full comprehensive guide and give you everything that you need in just one video. I've been hesitant to make this video for so long because I feel like when you tell someone that you're an actor, the first thing they ask you is, okay, what have you done? They want to know if you've done something big, like Euphoria or something like that, something that's a household name. And I haven't done anything like that yet. I've got 2 commercials under my belt. I've done like some off Broadway theater here in New York, and I've done like a few indie films. So I haven't done anything big, but what has pushed me to actually make this video is that even though I haven't done anything big, I'm doing something right to even make it to this point to where I have representation and I'm being seen for auditions and I'm being put on hold for projects, just not booking and getting so close to not booking. But I know a little something. So take what you want from this video and leave the rest. So before you even need to worry about a headshot, auditions, an agent, we need to learn how to act. So what I want you to do first is go online and research the different acting methods, because there are a few. There's Meisner, there's method, there's Stanislavski, there's practical aesthetics. Like, there are a few different acting techniques. So the most cost-effective thing to do is do some research and then pick up a book, go to Barnes & Noble. You don't even have to purchase the book, just sit down and read up on those different techniques. Figure out what you gravitate towards. A lot of these books do have actionable steps or homework, so I don't know, it's fun to like play around and get a feel for what you'll be learning in class before you even pay for a $300 or $400 class, because they tend to be that price all the time. I personally don't think that there's any technique that's like better than the others. I really think it's all up to personal preference. We all learn differently. Different things touch us in different ways. So do your research and figure out what works for you. This is the very first book I ever purchased on acting, and this was back in 2016. And HB Studio here in New York is where I actually took my very first acting class. But I love this book. I love all of the exercises and homework that are in this book. So highly recommend. Now that you have a technique or techniques in mind that you like and that you want to try out, we're gonna look for a class. If you don't have a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time, I'd suggest doing part-time classes. So you can look for part-time classes that are like scene study classes or acting technique, movement, voice, improv. These classes are essentially gonna teach you the basics. You're gonna learn how to break down a script. You're gonna learn how to figure out what your character's objectives are and how they can reach them through different tools, and you're gonna learn how to be present and actually live in the moment in the scene versus, you know, anticipating the next person's line and you're just doing line readings back and forth. You're not even really acting. You will learn all of the basics in these level 1 classes, and then as you progress, you'll just move on to more advanced classes. So I would start with these, and as time goes on, then you can worry about like on-camera audition technique classes and dialect classes. But again, before you even decide to pay for a class, go online, go on YouTube. There are so many resources that are free online. If you have money, that's rich people business. I can't relate. But for my people who, you know, you don't got all that expendable money, go online first. Now, if you have more money and you have more time or just don't mind taking out loans, you could also train in a full-time or a part-time conservatory program or get a degree from a college. As I mentioned earlier, with the part-time classes, they do tend to be more affordable, and their schedules tend to be like once, maybe twice a week for 2 to 3 hours. But with part-time classes, you have to enroll in each of those classes separately. So you're paying for a scene study class and you're also paying for an improv class, you know, if you wanted to take those at the same time. Now, what I do like about conservatory programs and colleges is that full-time consistent training, because acting is a skill, it's a muscle. And with acting being this muscle that you need to constantly flex in order to stay sharp, I think that the full-time schedule, especially when you're just starting, I think it's really, really good for that. Also, with a lot of colleges and conservatory programs, at the end of the program, so at the end of your 2, 3 years or 4 years, depending on what you decide to do, there's showcase opportunities, potential agents, managers, just representation in general. They come to these shows and they fill their rosters. So you don't get that with part-time classes, but you do get that with conservatory programs and college. I also think the networking opportunities are better just because with part-time classes, these are people who are taking classes whenever they can afford it or whenever they have time. So you're not always seeing the same people long enough to really build a relationship. Whereas, again, if you're in college or you're in a conservatory, you're with these people Monday through Friday, like 9 to 5. Okay, so now that you have some training under your belt, I know you want to look for work. Before we even think about auditioning, we're gonna need a headshot, resume, reel, and profiles on the different casting websites, which adds up. It adds up. So the different casting websites are Actors Access, Casting Networks. I used Backstage when I was first starting, and I actually booked my very first commercial through Backstage. Also Playbill, when I want to look specifically for theater auditions, Playbill. The websites that I mentioned aside from Playbill require like a monthly fee, and also every time you upload clips for your reel on Actors Access, and I think even if Casting Networks, if you have like the unlimited media, I think you just pay the monthly flat fee. But with Casting Networks, every time you upload a new clip to your reel, it's like $20. I feel like everyone has a different opinion on what makes a headshot good or not. All I'm gonna say is find a photographer that specializes in actor headshots specifically, and get something that's more theatrical and serious, and something else that's like more smiley and commercial, so that you can have a little variety when you're sending yourself out on auditions. So the whole concept of having a reel used to stress me out when I was just beginning, because it felt like one of those instances of like, how am I supposed to get experience if I don't have experience and nobody wants to give me the chance yet because I don't have a reel? To get started, all you need to do is film yourself doing 2 contemporary contrasting monologues, so something maybe more dramatic, something comedic, also maybe something classical if you want to send yourself out for that kind of work. Do it against a plain backdrop, a plain white wall, and have good lighting in front of you, good audio, and I think that's good enough to get started. The monologue should be like, what, 1 to 2 minutes in length, maybe 90 seconds max, but keep it at that to get started. Or you could even record yourself doing a self-tape of a scene and just have a reader slightly off camera. Again, blank wall, good lighting. I would keep all of your clips for your reels separate and categorized by whether or not it's like dramatic or comedic, or she's flirty or she's angry. Like, just keep things separate so that way when you're submitting yourself for auditions, you can look at the breakdown. You could choose one of your clips that most closely matches the breakdown description. Use the clip that applies to the role that you're applying for. Also, just another helpful tidbit, when you are looking at your scene that you recorded or your monologue, if it is longer than like 2 minutes or 90 seconds, pick the point that's like the most crucial part, where there's like a clear change in emotion or some type of shift. My final piece of advice, and this is something that I struggle with the most, it is to stay active. Acting is a muscle. It's a skill that you can learn. If you don't use it, you lose it. So if you can afford it, stay in a class. If you can't afford class at the time, read a play, go see shows. When you read your play, maybe choose a specific scene and like break down the scene. Maybe record yourself doing a monologue, record yourself doing the scene, watch it back, see what you can be doing differently. Join an improv group if you can. Not necessarily a class, but there's improv groups. There's also writing groups. I encourage you to write your own work. This is something that I want to focus on in the next year, just to take my career into my own hands a little bit and feel like I have some sort of control, because otherwise you are just sitting around waiting for an audition that may or may not ever come. And when it does come, you might look at the script and be like, this is ass, I don't want to do this. But you got an audition, so you do it anyway because you're just lucky, right? You're lucky somebody even called you in. There are certain things that you can be doing at home. You could do a vocal warm-up at home. If you have access to this video, you have access to the internet, and you can figure something out. I've had an agent and a manager for a little over a year now, and I didn't necessarily get them strategically. It's not like I went to a showcase and they saw me. I was referred through a friend, and the friend just sent all of my headshots, my resume, my reel clips, well, my Actors Access profile. And that's how I got them. There was a point in time where I was cold submitting, and I did get a few responses, just like finding emails on IMDb Pro, but I will come back to that later when I actually have something informed to say. If you're just beginning, your priority right now is to learn how to act. Get good at acting. You are not worrying about an agent, a manager, an audition. You're learning how to act. You're staying active in classes. You're joining groups on your own, sketch writing groups, improv groups, because that's how you meet people. That's how you stay in the mix. And that's kind of how I got referred. If you've made it this far, you should have all the information that you need just to get yourself going on this journey, because it is a journey, definitely a marathon and not a sprint. And it can be a little discouraging because progression in this field is not always linear. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, and if I don't have the answer, I will do my best to point you to a resource where you can find the answer. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.